Welcome to the Getaway Podcast, episode number 7. We launch in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back.
Hey, another crazy week in lacrosse. This week we had some tournaments kicking off. We had some conference championships.
We had the ACC start off, and we had the Patriot League. We had Loyola Greyhounds coming out with a big victory over Army in the championship game over at the Patriot League.
And the ACC, man, holy smokes.
You got the Tar Heels coming back with a vengeance.
We kind of called that in our last episode. We were saying, we've been saying it since episode number 1, that they're loaded. Obviously, they're returning national champs, but I think you said it last episode. Like, hey, don't count them out. They had to win out. Their backs were up against the wall. The other 3 teams were probably already in. And then what happened? Bang!
I mean, they were the hunted all season, and of course they went up and down all season. But going into the ACC tournament, they needed to win out and get above 500 in order to get a bid into the NCAAs. And they jumped up early on Syracuse. They were playing outstanding. I got to admit, they were lights out in that first half that I was watching the game when I was down in Daytona, Florida. They were just playing on fire. Syracuse came back and fought hard, but North Carolina came out on top. And when they did the same thing against Notre Dame, even though the game was 2 days later, it was still a little bit sloppy in my eyes. But overall, North Carolina did play with that poise that you saw last year that they had going into the championship game.
I think they got pretty lucky in a sense that their last 2 ACC games were Syracuse and Notre Dame, and they had just seen them, a week and a half ago. They played Syracuse to an 11-12 loss in overtime. They played Notre Dame to a 14-13 or 13-14 loss. Really, really tough, painful losses. But when you get a chance to avenge those within a couple of weeks, we're not talking about, late February or, early March. We're talking about literally a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And you get a chance to play both of those. You know that you can win. And look what happened. I mean, they came out, and like you said, the Syracuse game was a tough, hard-fought game. But that Notre Dame game, I thought they were pretty comfortable. I mean, they were rocking and rolling. You could see how much fun they were having playing, saying, hey, look, another 2 quarters, another quarter. We're almost in the NCAA tournament, and those guys were flying around.
Notre Dame's backs were against the fences when you have Sergio Perkovic that seems to be having a wrist problem, and he's not pulling the trigger where he naturally pulls the trigger. Usually he's a time and room catch and shoot guy, or he bodies you up and they can pull the trigger. You could tell that was playing into effect during the game, and then at the same time their attackman,
which one?
Drawing a blank on
Guernsey?
his name. Garnsey.
Yeah.
Garnsey has an ankle problem. It looked like he was literally wearing a cast on his ankle, and he wasn't as mobile as he usually is. But that's no excuse to why you should lose a game. But when your 2 star-powered players are hurt, that does play a huge effect on a team. They have to rise above, and those 2 guys are easily worth, I want to say, 6 to 8 points.
Oh, studs.
Total.
Yeah, studs.
And that's a huge swing in the game. But, Notre Dame fought hard. It was just North Carolina's tournament.
When you win the championship in the ACC, one of the good things is you can kind of get healthy, or you lose. Notre Dame can kind of get those guys rested up. Perkovic, like you said, I mean, he was audibly, you could hear him on the game, on the broadcast. He was yelling, he was getting into huddles, and he was in a lot of pain. So those guys can rest up, and Notre Dame's got to be a top 4 or 5 favorite. I mean, they're right back in it.
Notre Dame does have a game this weekend.
Right. But you can probably rest the guys. I mean, you're in the tournament.
I believe they play Army. But those guys, I guarantee you, won't play. They're going to heal up, and they're going to get ready for the NCAA. They got an automatic bid.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
They're in. And now you flip it over to the Big Ten, which we're obsessed with. I mean, the Big Ten has just been so exciting to watch this year. And you look at Maryland's win over Hopkins. It was 14,000 plus on hand to watch the old little Crab Cup. I'm doing little pinchers with my hands that you can't see right now, but I'm a crab. So their tournament kicks off this weekend or this week, and you have Maryland, Penn State, and you have Ohio State and Hopkins. And I don't know. I'm thinking Maryland Hopkins rematch. What do you think?
I don't know. Ohio State is coming off a loss on their senior day from Rutgers.
Yeah.
So they got to be hungry. Hopkins really needs that win to showcase the fact that they should be allowed into the tournament and they should get that nod.
That's true.
Penn State is up and down in my eyes. They were number one, and then they lost a few games, and they barely squeaked by University of Michigan. But I really think Ohio State's going to seek a vengeance after coming that big loss against Rutgers on their senior day. And I think Maryland is dialed in right now. That loss that they had a few weeks ago really got them back to being focused. And I think they're going to come out to be champions of the Big Ten tournament. But my gut feeling is saying Ohio State might squeak out this one.
That would be exciting. I'll tell you what. If you were to tell me in the beginning of the year, well, maybe not, but if you were to tell me in the beginning of the year that the Big Ten, their 4 and 5 seeds would be ranked number 1 in the country more than halfway into the year. You had Penn State take a little ride at number 1. You had Rutgers take a ride at number 1. And Rutgers probably not going to make the tournament. I think they got absolutely, crushed by UNC. I think UNC winning this weekend
but you can also argue that Ohio State win is also a huge push for them as well.
I mean, I hope that helps, but when you take away an at-large bid, that bid could have gone to them. Had UNC not won the tournament, they would have been below 500. They're out. And now Rutgers has one less bid to go for. I mean, it's going to be tough for them to get in because you think Penn State will probably get a bit ahead of them. I mean,
now, here's a question. I was watching ESPN, and I saw Paul Carcaterra and Quick Kesnick do this little segment with Anish in the car.
The man.
Yeah, Carcaterra supposedly is a radical driver, but they were saying, which conference do you think has the most potential to win the championship? They were determining between ACC or Big Ten, and then Quint dropped in there that he thinks that there's going to be some type of unsung hero team that's going to make it to the Final Four weekend that could potentially win it all.
I saw that. Yeah.
I'm a big believer that the ACC is just a natural powerhouse, and the Big Ten is on its way up. But it's so hard to determine when you look at these rankings about who is going to be the best because the parity of the game this year has been up and down all season. I think we've had at least 6 to 7 different number 1 rankings, which is bizarre.
It's crazy. And I think you're right when you're talking about the ACC against the Big Ten. I definitely agree that the depth of the ACC is so strong. But when you look at the top of the Big Ten, we're not talking about a new Big Ten where it's Michigan, Ohio State. You're talking about 2 of the perennial all-time lacrosse schools. You're talking about Hopkins and Maryland. So, they might not be there in the depth, but you have to kind of say that it's kind of a toss-up. Maryland was an ACC school. So you have Maryland, you have Syracuse, you have Hopkins. I mean, all 3 of those guys I look as fairly even schools.
Could Albany be the sleeper to make it to the Final Four this year?
Could be. Or you have a Loyola. I mean, Loyola has that pedigree. They've won one in the last decade. Maybe they can kind of surprise some people. They definitely have the scoring. So why don't you give us the top 10?
Top 10, sitting on top is Maryland, followed by Denver, Syracuse, Notre Dame, and Albany. Rounding up the bottom half, you got Duke at 6, Ohio State, Penn State, North Carolina, and Hopkins. Holy smokes, is it all ACC and Big Ten?
It's wild. It's wild. And then on the girls' side, there's some great games as well. This weekend, they're getting into their tournaments. UNC scored the last 9 goals to take down Syracuse, 2 top 10 teams for the ACC championship.
How cool is that the school, North Carolina, won the national championship, both boys and girls, and then this year, both boys and girls won the ACC.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And then you get Penn winning the Ivy. Who else you got? You got Towson starts on a 7-0 run to beat Hopkins, which is, once you get down to Baltimore, I mean, that's a big win for them. There's some exciting games. The Southern California taking down Colorado, win their championship, 2 top 10 teams. Their women's game, everyone keeps saying Maryland. It's going to be fun on their side, too. Anyone can beat Maryland with these athletes. It'll take a special day, but it would be pretty exciting to see the women's game. Hopefully they broadcast a lot of those games this weekend or, coming up for the tournament. So this week, guys, have a really exciting guest, one of the all-time greats. Throw him on the Mount Rushmore. It's definitely somebody that we both looked up to growing up, and I think Steven even more so than myself, going to the same university, and kind of being a couple years. You're older than me, let's be honest.
I'm the old man.
Maybe I looked up to his brother a little bit more, but he was definitely one of those guys that, you had his poster on your wall when you're growing up. You tried to play like him in the backyard. None other than Casey Powell. Let's give him a ring.
CP!
Brooksy.
What's the good word, my man?
Oh, just tucked away in Delray.
Oh, that's the way to do it.
Brooks has been sitting here making dolphin noises for the last 15 minutes.
It's pretty good.
I went through my archives and I pulled up a poster of you, Dave Morrow, and Mark Millen that I had autographed when I was 13 years old when you guys came to Illinois.
Oh my god.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's probably like 97 or something.
98, yeah.
98.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got anything to add before we go?
No,
Gary?
it's perfect. It's perfect.
All right.
We'll just plug your bio in before we don't have to tell you. So
Yeah.
we'll rattle your bio off before we get going. So go ahead, Brooks. You can hit him.
Please reread it. Please reread it.
So,
Oh my god, man.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Bio alert. Okay, so here's the deal. For those of you guys that don't know who he is, we kind of just skipped over that. Probably should have put it in earlier. Casey's an absolute legend, like you'll hear, like we already mentioned. 4-time college All American at Syracuse, 2-time National Player of the Year in college. This is before the Tuaraton, not to age you, Casey. He was the National Midfielder of the Year in '96. He was the National Attackman of the Year in '98. He went on to be the MLL Offensive Player of the Year in 2005, and at the age of 38, he won it again in 2014. He also won the MLL MVP that year as well. He was the NLL, which is the Indoor League, Most Valuable Player, only American to win that. And he was, like we said, the Indoor and Outdoor MVP. He was also named to Lacrosse Magazine's All-Century team. LacrosseAllStars.com named him the #1 Indoor-Outdoor American lacrosse player ever. Just an absolute legend. Gold medal with Team USA as captain. Now coach of Jacksonville University down in Florida. And in case that doesn't impress you, he's also the MLL all-time leading scorer. Now back to the interview. Beep, boop, beep.
coming from Carthage, the biggest and most important thing is how did you get involved with lacrosse and what attracted your eye to the game?
I was grew up in a neighborhood and really small town and cool neighborhood where all sorts of sports were played with tight neighborhood. I always used to play baseball with the older kids and football with the older kids, and I always kind of admired the fact that we weren't allowed to play unless they were short a guy, and then if I happened to get in and I kind of wowed them a little bit, then they'd invite you back next time. So it was kind of cool to compete with and against the older guys, and into all sorts of sports, and played intramurals, and we had a hot shot gym teacher moved back to Carthage where he just finished college, and his name was Kirk Quattro, and we called him Coach V or Coach 24, and he was young. He was 24 years old, and we were in, I believe I was in second grade when he got there, and I think the first he saw of us, there was a big snowbank, and we lived right next door to the elementary school, so the house next door, and my brother Ryan was being pulled in a sled by our beagle, and so he kind of saw him on one end of the snowbank, and then he drove the car up and waited for Ryan, who was being pulled up, and he goes, Coach Quattro goes, "Who are you?" And Ryan goes, "Well, I'm Ryan Powell." And Coach Quattro goes, "Oh, I worked with your dad at the paper mill." So that was kind of the first we met Coach Quattro, and he stopped over to the house and said hi to my father, and but then he started all these intramural programs, and before he got there, all we played was dodgeball, which was awesome. But he really brought in a curriculum, and whatever season it was or whatever sport he was covering, he made us feel like it was a really big deal. Like if we were in a wiffle ball game, there was 2 outs and the bases were loaded, and here comes the pitch type thing, and allowed us to kind of fantasize, and always told us, you can be anything you want to be, and think big. And he kind of randomly, it was one of his curriculums, brought in a lacrosse stick, and were intrigued. He said it was a combination of all the sports that we were interested in already, and it was played by Warriors, and so we talked about it. My brothers, Ryan, did the same gym class, and I think Mike was in kindergarten, did the same kind of gym class, went through it. And we kept talking about it at the dinner table with my parents, and a couple weeks later, my father showed up with a few lacrosse sticks that he had purchased down in Watertown, New York, and that was how we first got our sticks, and we were the first ones in our town, besides Coach Benequatro, to have sticks. And we started playing on the wall, which was just a jump over the fence away. And all of a sudden, a couple of kids in the neighborhood, the Goffin brothers, Joe Selesky, and a few other people showed up with lacrosse sticks. And it wasn't long before lacrosse really took off, and Coach Benequatro, noticed the passion and the explosion of it in such a short period of time, and really buckled down and made it a thing.
So what ended up taking you over to Syracuse? Obviously, local school.
Yeah, well, we grew up 90 miles from there, and when we first started getting a little bit more serious about it, we would drive down and watch West Tennessee practice, and we'd kind of hide in the bushes and write down their drills. And we'd even wear our socks up to our knees when we got home. We thought they were really cool, and we had heard about their storied program, Miss Sarah, the storied coach, and then we'd boondoggle. It was the beginning of the gate era. Happened to be, and we went to a game. And the first game was one of the air gates, and I remember walking into the dome and being sucked in and through the revolving doors and hearing the music and just feeling this aura and watching the swagger out there in the field, even in just the warm-ups and the loud music and the voice of the announcer. And from that day forward, we wanted to be the Gay Brothers, and we wanted to be at Syracuse. So we worked really hard, and we literally pretended, I would pretend I was Gary in the backyard, and Ryan was always Paul, and Mike was always the opposing team's goalie. So, but it just really inspired us just by being there and seeing Coach Simmons on the sidelines with his nice flow. They didn't call it flow back then, but the white flow and the hat, and just his style was really cool. So we were inspired, and that's what we wanted to do, and that's who we wanted to be.
Now, your freshman year at Syracuse, obviously 22 is a very, very historic number. How did that number come about for you to wear?
Well, I was heavily recruited. Syracuse made its claim. They offered me a full scholarship, which they weren't handing out left and right. So I knew they were serious about wanting me. Coach Simmons, throughout my high school career, we would go down to play at Coyne Field right outside of Coach Simmons' office. So he had the opportunity to always sneak out and kind of take a peek and watch me play. So he had been watching me play for 4 years, and certainly made it known that he wanted me. And so I got there, and I had a pretty good fall, and within the first couple of weeks, when they knew I was going to make a difference, he came up to me. I remember the day in Manley Fieldhouse, and he asked me, he goes, "Hey, you want to wear 22? And I was like, "Of course, Coach, of course." He goes, "A lot of pressure." I go, "I want the pressure, Coach." He goes, "Okay, you're now number 22. And just kind of walked away. And of course, I have this, I kind of lit up my soul a little bit, something I always wanted. I had been following Gary and then Charlie Lockwood, and now I knew it was going to be my turn and my time. So it was, I was really excited about it, and I made it mine.
And you were a first-team All American, as a freshman playing attack, and they bumped you over to the midfield second year as a sophomore. And today, you kind of get players that get stuck in a one-track mind. They want to be, a midfielder. They want to be a defensive short stick, and they only do one thing to kind of progress their game. What would you tell some of the younger guys that kind of aspire to be one specific type of player? And how would you tell them to train to expand their game?
Yeah, well, I think it's really important to, obviously there's certain body types, there's certain creative aspects of the position you end up becoming, but I always preach that you should try to be a lacrosse player. And, a lot of what we did in the backyard was that. We played defense, we played goalie, we played lacrosse. And, I'm a big believer of that because, when it comes down to it, and as you move up to higher levels, it's not always your decision. It's decision, and if you're stuck in one spot in one position, and you might be the odd man out. You might be the fourth attackman or the seventh midi, but you could make a difference with your team and able to contribute in other areas if you're more well-rounded. So it's important to be a lacrosse player and try to learn different positions and different games, much like fellow Syracuse guy Joel White, who came in as a heavily recruited midi and became the best LSM in the country. So,
wow.
Yep, it's good to be overall.
Well, you were a junior B guy too after high school, and we were talking to Coach Tierney, Bill Tierney, and he was telling us how he thinks every player until the age of 13, at least minimum, should be playing box lacrosse, and how it can kind of change the outdoor game. Obviously, you're coaching now, but as a player, seeing that experience of being kind of a little tougher and in tight type stick skills, how did that help develop your game? Do you think that had a big effect on you before college?
I do. I think, I don't know if it helped tremendously stick skills wise, but it certainly helps. Your scoring touch and developing a different way, a different mentality of scoring translates very well over to when you go back to field on the much bigger net. But I think you said it, when it's about toughness, it's about competition, it's about experience. And I played up there right before that fall at Syracuse, and I honestly came into Syracuse as a well-oiled machine because of box. I took a beating up there in the summer and played against John Grant Jr. and a strong Peterborough team, and I'd get gooned as I was a hyped up American player and really had no idea what I was doing, but I competed heavily and as hard as I could 4 nights a week all summer. And I think that's a big difference and often overlooked is a lot of, Americans, they play in a couple tournaments in the summer, and they nowadays they play just to get recruited, but in Canada they play to compete, and they play to represent their town and their club and who they're from, and they're playing a lot more lacrosse at a higher and more competitive level than we are in the off season, and I think that makes a big difference, and that was certainly helpful for me in preparing me to go in and not be intimidated by guys like Rick Beardsley on my team, like Chad Smith and Hans Smith, who they were assassins with those lacrosse sticks. So, but playing box lacrosse up in Canada following my senior year in high school certainly prepared me for my college career, and again, kind of at multiple positions, both attack and midfield.
Yeah, it prepared you to be NLL MVP too later in life.
Now, what was your success to make sure that you always kept even keel and humbled, but you still pursued excellence at the same time?
Well, I always trained as hard as I could each and every day, and I never let up. And Brooksy, I had the opportunity to play with you, and I later on in my career, I couldn't perform the way I wanted to or train as hard as I could, but that was what propelled me throughout. I never settled for where I was at, and always I enjoyed it. I enjoyed practicing. I enjoyed training. I enjoyed running as fast as I could in line drills. I loved seeing a ground ball in practice and in my head saying there's 5 seconds left in the national championship and going through that ground ball as hard as I could, and getting in tons of extra reps and ripping corners when nobody else is around. So I really enjoyed fine-tuning my game. That's how I did it in my backyard. I loved it. I didn't play to get recruited, and I played to win and to compete, and when the whistle blew, to be ready. That was something that I really enjoyed to do, and that was kind of the reason I play, because of that love for competing. And that's what I would encourage more of these younger kids to try to do, is continue to fine-tune their game and always try to be the best they can be, and enjoy the medicine game, getting away from real life and having the opportunity to, the game really tests you and shows you what you're made of, type thing. So it was a constant test for all the years that I played it.
I can attest to that. After seeing you for the first time in practice, I believe the first time we played together was with the Bayhawks, and I remember you were coming in, and I have to be honest, I was just like in shock, like holy cow!
It's called starstruck.
Yeah,
Starstruck.
I get to dress with Casey Powell, and I don't want to toot your horn, but I gotta admit, like you have been a huge role model of mine since I was a little kid when I was recording the Final Four games and the championship games on my VHS tape, and it was always Syracuse or Princeton or Syracuse, Virginia in the national championship game, and there you were, always hoisting the national championship trophy or always being the one that you talked about. And my first practice, I see you come in, and usually, you come when you see somebody come in of your stature, you think to yourself, oh man, this guy has it all. And like you said, that ground ball, that ball is yours. You always want to compete. You competed, and you brought an edge to our Bayhawk team. And I was like, holy cow, this is why you are my role model, because what you just said is exactly who you are. You like to compete no matter what it is, and 100% all the time you're competing. If it's just a ping pong game, I guarantee you're going to compete at that. If it's just a shooting competition, you're going to compete at that. And I have to admit as well, is one things that I probably learned from you most was your love of the game and pouring it on to little kids and always making kids feel welcomed when they step foot in front of you. You made them feel as if you were just a typical person, just like the kid, and you made them feel welcome. And it's a true honor to actually have played with you and call you a friend and a teammate.
Awesome. Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
You know what?
It's awesome.
Just like Brooks said right there, I think of you as kind of, the player that our generation aspired to. I'm 31, and you were the guy that we grew up watching and kind of tried to emulate. And I wanted to know if you wanted to take this time to maybe apologize to my generation for the high sock thing and the horrible tans over the course of the summer for the beach.
You know what? It's like denim and tie dye. It'll be back, my man.
So after you graduated Syracuse, your brother Ryan follows your path, and then after Ryan graduated, Mikey followed his path. What was it like growing up and setting that bar high for your brothers and then watching them succeed, not only to your level, but maybe even going above and beyond, like breaking the point records? What was that like to you? What was your influence to your brothers while they played at Syracuse?
Well, first and foremost, let's get something straight here. Ryan tied the all-time scoring record and Mike beat it, but I went back to the books and did a little research, and Mike played a bunch more games. and points per game, the older brother came out on top. So
yeah.
I'd like to consider myself the best in the family. No, it was awesome. It was awesome to see Ryan in 1990. In 2000, he went on an absolute mission. I remember walking into his house and. I looked on his wall, and he had a big 96 written, and this was his senior year. I was already out playing pro, and I go, right, what's 96? He goes, that's how many points I need to tie your all-time record. And the most I had ever scored in a season at Syracuse was 83. So, and then the NCAA record at the time was 104. So, being the older brother, I tap him on the rear, and I'm like, oh, okay, good luck, Ryan. Well, Ryan went on that mission. And, guys would do what college guys do, and the teammates would get back from Marshall Street hanging out, and they'd look out on the turf, and Ryan Powell's out there at 2:30 in the morning, and they'd take the bus to class in the morning, and Ryan Powell's out there on the turf in the morning, and, after a couple of weeks of his teammates seeing him out there on an absolute mission, they joined him. And they stopped going out, and they started doing the extra work. And, fast forward 4 months, he's in the national championship game and ends up tying the record with a victory. scores his 96th point with 19 seconds left. And, finishes as a champion and immediately runs off the field. The coolest thing about it, he never wanted to break it. He just wanted to tie it. And that was a really, really cool thing. And then, obviously, what Mike did in college lacrosse, he just dominated and brought that extra flair. But even Mike, when he was growing up, was a big showman. we'd be playing varsity basketball, and at halftime I'd hear the crowd going crazy, and I remember peeking my head out of the locker room, and Mike would be out there shooting threes, dribbling between his legs, and the crowd would be going crazy for him. So, but to do what he did was amazing, and the fact that we all grew up kind of with the same fantasy in the backyard, and went out there and fulfilled it, and did it the way we did, will forever be the most special thing that's ever happened to me.
Did you teach Mike how to do that front flip?
No, that was from his gymnastics days. We have a great picture of Mike. We were playing Pop Warner football for the Carthage Bears, Ryan and I, and there was an ad in the local Carthage paper that came out like once a month, and it said the Carthage Bears are looking for a mascot. So Mike signs up. I'm going to be a mascot for the Bears, probably wear a bear suit. Well, it turns out it was basically it was a male cheerleader position. And we have this awesome picture of the cheerleaders in the Carthage Tribune paper, and Mike's in the front doing a split with his hands on his elbows on the ground.
Oh, it's so good.
We bring that out when we need to.
So there's not enough lacrosse movies out there, and I'm a firm believer that they should make a Powell Brothers movie. Who plays you guys?
Oh, geez, good question. Man. I don't know. That's gonna have to.
You're like a Vince Vaughn character, maybe.
Yeah. At this point, yeah. Marky Mark for Mike, and I don't know.
I like it.
That's a good question.
So before we transfer out of Syracuse and talk about the transition from you going to college to pro and now coaching, what is your favorite Syracuse story? And it's a two-part question. And what was it like playing for the legendary coach Roy Simmons? And what was that feeling of not him teaching lacrosse, but more of life lessons all the time?
Yeah, I mean, he was...
6-point question, sorry.
Two-part question. Yeah, it's a two-part question, but it's a one-part answer. I mean, it was because it was simply amazing to have the opportunity to play for him, and he's everything and that as a person, and he was a father figure. He was a mentor, and he was an artist who opened up my eyes to the world and different views of things, and but he's completely loyal. He bleeds orange, and that certainly passed on to me, and I was very, very fortunate to have the opportunity to play for him. It certainly enhanced my experience, but I think a story relating to him is 1995 national championship game. We were down against Maryland, and we go into halftime, and he wrote on the board "Amazing Grace," and he didn't say anything, and he didn't say anything about it. And then we come back and we beat Maryland 13-9, win the national championship. And 3 weeks later, we had a UK tour over the United Kingdom, England, Scotland, and Wales tour planned for the team. And we went to England and played the English national team and played the Wales national team. And I remember going to Lacrosse, Scotland, where the Pan Am flight memorial was, and we got off the team bus with suits on, and Amazing Grace was playing on the bagpipes. So he had kind of forecasted, the fact that we'd be there, win or lose, and it was just an amazing moment, when we put it together. The fact he never said anything about it, but he kind of referenced it, so it was a really, really powerful, cool thing.
Well, he's a legend. I mean, wow. As you know, and I know, and most people don't know, is he's one of the greatest storytellers of all time that I've ever come across. And you never realize where his story's coming or how it's going to end. And all of a sudden, when he finishes the story, you're just like, oh my God, that all makes sense. And it just sounds like, he puts people in the right positions to be successful and just make them not think to put pressure on themselves, but more of the think to expand their mind to become more creative. Like he says, the field is your canvas and you're the painter. How are you going to paint your field? How are you going to paint your game?
Yep. He's unreal.
Do you see yourself emulating him as a coach now that you're coaching college ball down at Jacksonville?
I like to not take the game itself as serious like he did. He recognized life and the relationships are more important than the game itself. So I think I take to that. I got a couple good jokes, but I'm not a great storyteller like him. He's just worldly and knowledgeable, and there'll never be anybody like him. But I try to emulate him as much as I can, for sure.
I think the one thing, from watching you play and never playing with you, obviously, I'm not of that caliber. But I feel like my left hand's getting better. I've been hitting the wall. I think the one thing that I really took from watching you and your brothers as well is the creativity and kind of the fun. It was just like effortlessly flowing out of you guys. Obviously, you put in so much work behind the scenes. But how would you tell some kids to kind of let loose and kind of play without kind of fear on the field?
Well, I think, one of the cool things about us growing up in a non-lacrosse town, sorry, we got a Harley here. One of the things about growing up in a non-lacrosse town is I didn't have any coaches, and even Coach Benaquacha wasn't a lacrosse player. He had been taught a lesson of it at Cortland State University, but nobody told me what not to do. So nobody's saying, no one-hand ground balls, or put it in your left hand, or stop that behind the back crap, all the stuff you hear from coaches that have never been able to explore the full creativity of lacrosse. I think, especially in practices and summertime and off-season, you should have the ability to play the game any way you'd like, and especially as a youth, and to create and have fun with it. And, yeah, you're not always going to be successful. I had some really nice behind-the-back shots in my career, but I'd already done those behind-the-back shots 1,000 times in my backyard. And I've screwed up on my plays more than I've made great plays. So I was very fortunate to not have somebody overlooking me and suggesting that I don't do something that they don't necessarily agree with. And I had a little bit of structure because, again, we emulated what West Genesee did, but we also were keeping a close eye on what Syracuse was doing, and they were, around the world, between the legs, behind the backs. Again, that's who we wanted to be, and that's the style that we were able to see right in front of us, and it was accepted, and Coach Simmons accepted it. And to be honest, that's why I went to Syracuse. He accepted that style, and that was the style that I became after watching so much and having an opportunity to be me for all those years leading up to it.
Footloose and fancy free, right?
Yeah.
Kind of looks like Kevin Bacon. I can see that.
So, you've had a tremendous career as a player, both college, MLL, and indoor as well. What was the hardest transition when you became a coach, as to always playing until last year as you retired, and now becoming a coach? What was the transition like for you?
Well, I'm still learning how to coach, and I've learned a lot, to be honest with you, this year about the game, aspects that I haven't really looked at, and little things that I've already done for so many years and kind of overlooked and felt as second nature. But not everybody knows what I know, and not everybody's been successful at the little things that I have. So it's kind of taken a step back and kind of, we've throughout the second half of the season improved as a team at Jacksonville because we've kind of retaught them everything. Getting out with your feet and pointing your butt end at your target, and snapping your passes, little things like that. So it's a work in progress. And then I've shared the story about my brother Ryan and his mission. Sometimes it frustrates me when the guys don't go on a mission and they just kind of show up to practice and play. It's frustrating to me because that's not how I approach the game. So I was well prepared going into each season, and these guys kind of don't want it as bad as I wanted it, which is okay, no doubt about it. But that's not how I was.
Right.
So again, just taking a step back and understanding everybody's personalities, but it's a great group of guys, and again, we've improved and gotten better, and it's been a joy. play, no doubt.
Now, I think which is a cool thing is that looking at the coaching staff that you guys have and seeing two Syracuse legends basically, and John Galloway and yourself, what's it like coaching with John? And do you guys try to bring a Syracuse mentality to Jacksonville?
We do. Well, he's West Jenny, and in Syracuse, but he's more West Jenny.
Does he allow his players? Does he make his players wear a helmet on the bus to the field?
Not quite. I actually suggested that, but he didn't quite. But, yeah, he's a heck of a coach, and to be honest with you, I see get John Galloway's name being thrown around in 15, 20 years from now with the likes of Tierney and Donowski and Simmons. I mean, he's committed. He's a winner. He does it the right way. He's well spoken. He's well liked by the team. Well respected by the team, and he knows a lot about the game. He's a student of it, and he's been amazing to be around this year. I've learned a lot from him. It's weird being a longtime lacrosse guy, and I think I'm 13 years older than him, and he knows more about the game than I know. But he can coach all positions, and he's very good at dissecting the game. And again, I've learned a lot from him, and I think he'll be one of the best coaches in college lacrosse history.
You guys are heading into the conference tournament this weekend, correct?
Air Force Thursday.
Yeah, we are.
Heck yeah. Go Dolphins, right?
Give us the Dolphins.
Fins up.
Yeah. We play Air Force. We snuck into the Southern Conference, the tournament, with our great late season play and some big wins, and now we're going to play Air Force, who beat us about a month ago in overtime out there in Colorado. So we're excited. We're a better team now, and we're ready to compete. So we're heading up to Richmond to try to make some noise.
Oh, that's about 45 minutes south of us.
I see that as being an absolute destination. I mean, I'd imagine that you have a lot of kids coming to play for you guys now that are just huge fans, not just of your coaching, but of your game too. It's definitely an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I had Dave Petramala and Dave Cottle at my kitchen table. I remember writing in how it felt when you rode in a van with Coach Simmons, or being called by Coach Tierney and visited by, so anybody with stature in the game, and you're a young kid who hasn't been exposed to, all the aspects of it, it's unreal. So I still get giddy when I see Gary Gate. So I can only imagine, what a kid riding around in the golf cart with me and John are thinking as we're touring them around campus. So it's cool. We think that Jacksonville will be certainly a great place to go to school. We have a great president of the university. We have a great athletic director. And, again, Coach Galloway is doing a great job. It's a beautiful school. It's small. It's a great business school. It's got a beach aspect. It has a beautiful campus. And there's a side of the city, a NFL team, and tons of concerts. And it's a blast. But the upperclassmen live on the beach in beach houses. And I don't know if I would made it to practice too many times. But our guys have bought in. It's a great place to go to school. It's a great area of the country. We're the only Division I lacrosse program in Florida, and we think that we can be the lacrosse capital of the South, almost emulating what Denver has done out there.
Yeah, I think so. From up here, I'd go down in a second. So you want to talk a little bit about the World Lacrosse Foundation? We've seen a lot of your social media presence and read up on it, and it's such a cool idea and such needed work. And we'd kind of love for you to give you a little platform to talk about it here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something I'm really, really proud of, and we're just getting started. But our mission of the Casey Powell World Lacrosse Foundation is to support severely injured and sick lacrosse players and their families. We create support moments, almost like that of Make-A-Wish, where we'll do special things for kids that may need a little boost of positivity in their negative situation. As you guys know, lacrosse is a family, and when one of us goes down, my foundation is prepping itself to be the organization that's there to get your back, and it's been very rewarding. We've sponsored a lot of young kids, young lacrosse players who either have cancer or stroke or different ailments that have restricted them from being able to play the game, and it's been really rewarding and something that we're really proud of. So it's cool. We have a great board. We have a great group of ambassadors, and Brooksy, you've done some stuff for us that has been a big help. The Florida launch stepped up this year and made a donation, and we have a flagship fundraiser called the World Lacrosse Beach Festival, and it's in August in Sarasota, Florida. And more information on the foundation is at worldlacrosse.org. But thank you for the opportunity to talk about that, and it's something that we're really passionate about. It's really cool.
Now, you also have Go Speed Lacrosse, and I feel we used to play that in the locker room all the time. Actually, every time before games, Casey will bring his goals, and we will play Go Speed Lacrosse in the locker room. And I have to admit, I've probably sweated sometimes more in that pregame besides getting into the game. I mean, granted, I worked my butt off, but when you get in a competitive nature, playing against you or being on the same team as you and playing the guys against like Brett Queener and Chris Mattis, it gets really, really intense. And you kind of, it's a good thing that you do have this thing, because kids need to understand how to play a smaller side game, but also have fun and get that nature of being creative. And you want to talk a little bit about Go Speed Lacrosse?
Yeah, Speed Lacrosse is, it's something that we did in the backyard, and we all did in the backyard, and we all played a certain style. Well, what I decided to do was, after my career ended, or towards the end of my career, I kind of thought back, how was I so successful? My brother's so successful, and how did I love it so much? And what was great about it? So I kind of modified the sport and we call it Speed Lacrosse. The courts are 40 yards long by 20 yards wide, which is almost identical to what my backyard was. And it's we've incorporated a lot of good things about lacrosse. There's some developmental things like no raking. There's no coaching allowed. The players are taught to govern themselves. There's a court guard that makes an ultimate decision if there's a dispute. We praise sportsmanship. It's called Speed Lacrosse because it's fast. You play 6-minute periods. You have to win 2 out of 3 periods to win the match. When you ball goes out of bounds, you inbounds it like basketball. You don't use pads. We didn't use pads training in the backyard. We used a softball, and that's exactly what Speed Lacrosse is. So it's getting lots of touches. It's developmental. It's great for fitness, and it's great for new players to try the game. You can play it co-ed, which is really cool. We do family speed nights. We do Valentine's Day couple speed. And my goal is to start a pro division so I can get another 5-10 years out of a pro career.
I'm in. I'm working on my left hand, I'm telling you. Give me 5 more years and I'm in.
All right. Well, I'm going to have a tryout. I'm looking for some teammates, so
well,
let me know.
You can have 22. I'll go 44.
No, you can't take my number.
So 2 more questions. Number one, I've heard that you are, you might not be Simi's storyteller, but I've heard that you definitely have some epic stories. So keep it relatively clean. Doesn't have to be perfectly clean, but craziest thing you've seen in the locker room. Or team bus.
Well, there's not a lot I really want to share in that. It was amazing. That's the best part of it. I think Brooksy will agree, is the camaraderie, the bus trips, the locker room fun, the locker room shenanigans, the after game team shower ritual that we had at the Florida launch. But it's,
yeah, you can just leave that there. No one will ask questions for that one, Casey. Everyone just, that's cool. Team shower ritual.
Yeah, nothing bad. But that's the fun of lacrosse, and those are the things that I certainly will remember forever. Not necessarily the games or the wins and the losses, but the relationships with my buddies and my teammates.
Well, you skirted that one very nicely. I'm going to get somebody to finally tell a story here. So the last question we have is we have this random word generator. We get an adjective and a noun, and you have to tell us what player, coach, teammate, friend, celebrity, whatever it is, that pops in your head when you hear the name. All right, you ready?
Okay. Yes.
All right. You have murderous platypus.
Tucker Durkin.
Yes. Yes. He is a savage.
Well, that was pretty easy.
Yeah, that
Most
was
people
quick.
need
That was,
to.
we're not going to lie. That was the fastest response we've ever had when we asked that question. It usually takes people at least 3 or 4 more questions, or you get the, what?
One of my favorites, Bill Tierney, we gave him rude ballerina, and in half a second, he goes, coddle.
That's awesome.
You had some good ones. Well, thank you so much for coming on. That was a blast. I know, for me, it was a privilege and an honor to have you on, but it was just great to hear you off the field. It's pretty neat to hear, what you're like and kind of your passion for the game without a mic in your face right after you're walking off of, off the field or playing.
Yeah. Well, I have an ice cream in my face now. I'm in Delray Beach.
What flavor? Whoa, what flavor?
Virginia.
What flavor? Go-to flavor for ice cream.
I went with banana.
Oh,
Banana.
okay.
Yeah. Ripe fresh bananas.
Keeping it changed. Well, Casey, thanks again for your time. It's always an honor to get an opportunity to talk to you, and it's a true honor to get you on our podcast and allow our listeners to hear your story and what it's like. You basically did change the game of lacrosse. You got the gates, and then you and your brothers have changed the complete outcome of lacrosse. And you were the front runner, and you were a role model of mine, as many, many other players as well. But, it's just a tremendous honor, like I said, to have you on, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. And just to end, look out for the upcoming Casey Powell Warp Speed Lacrosse Tour.
Yo, let me tell you how bad my hands stunk after the game this weekend. My hands smelled so bad, I couldn't even pick my own nose. That's how bad they were.
Imagine a lady sitting next to you on the plane.
Holy cow, I felt, if anybody was around me, I feel so bad for them because they're terrible. My wife hates the fact of when I get home and my hands still smell like my gloves. And that's 2 days after the game.
Well, you're lucky because there's a new product called Fresh Mitts, and I'll tell you what, this stuff is money. So without being too sales pitchy, anyone that plays hockey, lacrosse, soccer, goalie gloves, your hands smell like absolute trash after games. But these guys developed this, and I'm not a scientist, but this stuff is wild. It eliminates the odor. It kills bacteria. It's not greasy. It's in like this rock hard kind of like hockey puck shaped thing. So you can just toss it in your bag, not worry about it breaking. It's not in a tube. It smells good, but it's not like obnoxiously over scented. And it's backed by science. So these guys got it legitimately developed by scientists. The stuff is money. Boom, boom, boom. Wipe it on your hands. Ready for the hot date. You can pick your nose all you want. That's Fresh Mitts. Check them out online. They're all over social media, Twitter, Instagram, and freshmitts.com. Bring it in. Bring it in.
All right, dude. This is first practice. I'm so excited.
Winston Churchill, where's all your gear? All you have is a stick.
Puberty rules, Coach. I grew out of all my equipment, and I don't know where to get any more.
Well, have you gone to laxworld.com and used code BAGPOD?
I have not.
Well, tell Mrs. Churchill that she should go on laxworld.com and go ahead and use code BAGPOD, BAGPOD, for free shipping, no minimums.
Thanks, Coach. I'll be doing wall ball for practice over here.
Okay. That's code BAGPOD. Laxworld.com.
Thank you again, Casey Powell, for coming on the Begataway podcast and expressing his story about how he got involved with lacrosse, his Syracuse days, and his transformation from becoming a player to a college coach. As most of you guys will know, at the end of that interview, he is very, very humble of when he talks about, when he puts pressure on himself about other people talking about his accolades. You can always see him express his love of the game and his competitiveness. I know from firsthand experience that he's one of the most competitive players I have ever had the opportunity to play with. So thanks again, Casey Powell.
The one thing that was perfectly well wrapped up, the one thing I took out of that interview, not from a blue blood area. Obviously I knew he played at Carthage, but not playing youth ball for a college coach or a high school or former college player. It kind of blew my mind. I didn't know that.
So going back to our episode last week about being two-sport athletes, It doesn't matter when you get involved with the game, as long as you devote your time and your heart into it, and you can be as successful as you want to be.
High school quarterback and high school starting point guard. So, yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Stud athlete, but you can develop it, no matter where you are. So a couple more things to wrap it up. I think we have our fun fact.
Let's see.
You want to pop a Snapple for us?
Gary's got to make me go through another 6-pack of Snapples right now. So, fun fact number 1. You know peaches are members of the almond family?
Did we do that one last week?
We might have.
You know what? Snapple's not reliable.
Jesus.
Sometimes you get the same ones.
Sometimes
we get the same ones.
Let's go. Update them. Number 2. Oh my God. Oink, oink. You know pigs can get sunburn?
I had no idea. Should we put some sun lotion on them?
Yeah, we should try that out for a day. You got a pig? All right, last one. The lifespan of a taste bud is about 10 days.
Lifespan of a... So, they die?
How do I keep tasting things then?
I don't get that one. Let's go one more. I just ruined your pack.
Golly. You're killing me, Smalls. The longest one-syllable word is screeched.
Screeched. That's not two? Screeched.
You should definitely use that in the next Scrabble game.
Screeched. Next Scrabble game.
I can't even...
And as always, make sure to follow us on Begataway Pod on Twitter, Begataway Podcast on Instagram. And if you want to shoot us an email, begatawaypodcast@gmail.com. And one last thing. We need your help to shoot up those iTunes charts. Go ahead and go to iTunes, click review, give us 5 stars. You could leave us a 2-word, hey, good. Or
2 words, good one.
Not bad. As long as it's 5 stars, I don't care what you're writing there. Just give us the 5 stars. Help us go up the charts. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Thanks for listening to episode 7. Got anything left, Brooksy?
Yeah, episode 8, we're going to dissect the NCAA tournament. Selection Sunday is this weekend, and we will talk the NCAA tournament and some snubs, and we'll just break it all down. How you doing, huh?
Hey, well, see you later. Peace out, Girl Scout! You got anything else? I just tried to sound like you.
No,
You say goodbye?
No.
Out now, brown cow. Later.
And Steve, I still have your Blackhawks T-shirt. I'll try to get that to you.
Yeah. Casey, I was not in the locker room, and he needed a shirt because he needed to go on an interview, and he didn't want to wear the shirt that he had. And I go back.
Well, you're breaking up.
No, I see how it is. And he stole my shirt, and I haven't seen it since. You can keep it. You can keep it.
No, you're getting it back. I get it back.